Hey everyone, it's Aldo at Kixie. So today let's talk about scheduling follow-up phone calls from the Kixie dialer and creating a Google Calendar event that we can actually invite your contact to, and we can set up an automated phone call to happen at the time of the scheduled event. So let's unpack all this and show you how it works. Let's start out in my favorite place, the Kixie dialer. So I had a phone call with someone. It wasn't a great time to speak, so we want to follow up with them. They asked me to call them back on August 5th at 1:30 p.m. That's fine. I go to the dialer in the schedule activity section, which is right over here. I input the time that I want to call them back. I can select the duration of the conversation that we're going to have. I can even specify what type of meeting it is, and I click submit. Now, when that happens, we send all kinds of useful data out through a webhook. Here's the data. You can see there's all kinds of good stuff here. What type of event it's going to be. It's going to be a call, the duration, the time, the date. My favorite is always the contact ID of the CRM. So in this case, it's HubSpot. We include that as well. And that's useful because we're going to want to pull up some information so we can actually send out a meeting invite for this person. So that's great. We have our data. That's the trigger for this Zap that we're going to use to facilitate this process. The next thing that we're going to do is a little bit of date time formatting. So actually what I want to do is I want to take the duration of my scheduled meeting and I want to add that to my actual start time. I'm just doing this because Google Calendar asks for the start time and the end time for the event. So I know that the start time is the date and time over here, 1:30 p.m., and the end time is 15 minutes later. So I'm going to add that using this formatter step, and what I'll get is 1:45 p.m., which is awesome. Now I can schedule my actual event. I did skip a step. I also got the contact, right? So remember when I mentioned that we're going to include the contact ID as part of the data payload when you schedule an activity? The reason we're doing that is because I want to look up the contact in my CRM, in this case it's HubSpot, and I want to get some more information. So we look at the action, we see this contact ID that I sent through the webhook. Well, I can now get all kinds of good information, including their email address. Great. I have their email address. I have the end time of the event right here. Now I can go and create an event in Google Calendar. So let's look at this. The action step that I'm using is create new event. I can put in some kind of event name like follow-up scheduled call from Kixie. I chose my calendar. I could add a description if I wanted to. But here's the start time coming from our webhook data through the schedule activity webhook. And here's our end time that we calculated. So now we have a 15-minute event. And here's the email address of my HubSpot contact. So I was able to use all of this data here to create my event, which is cool. So now I have an event in my Google Calendar for tomorrow with my HubSpot contact included in the invite. But we can go a step further. Because we have all of this data and because we're using Zapier, I can set up a delay until the time of the event. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm using the delay until step in Zapier. I'm saying that I want to delay until August 5th at 1:30 p.m. And then when that happens, I want to trigger a Kixie phone call. And so not only have I scheduled the activity, not only have I invited my contact to my Google Calendar event, but now I'm automating my callback. So at the time, this make a call action is going to fire. And again, I take the email address of my Kixie user, which is provided in the webhook data. I take the phone number of my contact that I can either get from HubSpot or I could just get that from the webhook payload. And then I can even create an action name that tells me what's going on and why this automatic phone call is firing. So my action display name can be scheduled meeting with HubSpot contact's first name. In this case, it's Aldo, and the action type is call. And so now let me actually show you what that looks like to receive the phone call. Here it is. I'm being prompted to accept this automated dial, and check it out. Scheduled meeting with Aldo. I hit accept. Now I'm calling out. I also have the clickable link to the contact record so I can have that information in front of me. Not only have I scheduled my event, but I also had a reminder to call back at that time so I'm not late, which is great. So let's go ahead and end this call. And really quickly, I want to show you how to actually set up the webhook. So like I pointed out, we have a section in our Kixie dashboard for webhooks where we can fire off data based on key events that are happening in Kixie. In this instance, my webhook event is scheduled activity. And when I click on this add button, I can select that. So scheduled activity is one of the events that can fire off data. I get my webhook URL. In this case, it's coming from Zapier. I grab it here. I copy it. I come back over here and I paste it in. I can call this scheduled meeting reminder. And I just hit save. And then every time a meeting is scheduled through the Kixie dialer, we will then send this webhook data, and here's where the webhook data goes, right over here, and that triggers the whole setup. And that's it. It's much easier than it looks, but if you have any questions about setting this up, please let me know. Drop me a line in the comments section, and I'd be happy to help from there. Thanks.